Hey, good morning. Cyndy here. I have another story running through my mind, something that I want to share. I'm the founding and executive director of Capture and Courage International Ministries. And over the last 6+ years, CCIM has been in 6 different countries in hundreds of communities within these countries. I have at this time ministered in over 300 village churches in these 6 years. And we're coming up to another ministry time overseas. Just a few weeks away from now, I'll be in another country. So it's been on my mind, sort of this way of being and this way that we go forward in the Lord. Now, in a lot of our normal sort of thinking, at least in our Western thinking, we make plans in a very certain kind of way. Usually people look at the time frame, right? And then they'll go look for like air tickets or something, right? But before that, of course, we look at the money. Do we have the money to do whatever it is we're planning? And so there's this way where we like to have, in an English saying, right, our ducks in a row. We like to have everything planned and orderly and coming into play. We're not very good with holding tension, with moving forward unless we are sure of things. But at CCIM, we've come to a different way of being sure of things. My very first ministry trip, and I think I've been on about 12 or 15 trips now in the last 6 years. It might be 18. I'm actually not sure. I'd have to count them up. But the manner that we normally go forward in terms of making plans in our logical head sort of way, is not actually the way it works at CCIM. At CCIM, we go forward by the Spirit. Now, I'm not saying people who make plans the orderly way aren't by the Spirit, but we have come to a really different way of being, and so I want to share a little bit of that with you. My first trip, I think I bought my ticket 2 days before I was leaving the country, and needing then, of course, to be where I had said I was going. It was really stressful that first time. And even the second time, I think it was 3 days out or 1 day out. And then my third trip was the same. In fact, I think I've only had 1 or 2 trips where I've bought a plane ticket a few weeks before the trip. And one of those was actually a couple months before the trip. So buying our ticket first and then setting our plans into place is not the way we roll at CCIM. Usually the ticket's the last thing to be bought. And so what happens to me before a trip is I will get a sense of a pressing in of the Spirit. I'm going to try to explain this to you because it's very, what's the word? It's just very, it's not really logical. It's more intuitive and sensing. And really what we would call a faith walk. So one of the first things that happens to me when I'm realizing I'm needing to go somewhere, is that there will be a sense of the month. There will be a month replaying through my mind, or a season replaying through my mind, along with sort of a country name or a pastor's name or place. And so I'll begin to wait on that and to ask the Lord about that, and basically just wait on the Lord, pray into it. And usually what happens, actually always, what happens is that pastor will contact me. At CCIM, we have never created an invitation for ourselves, ever. We've never just volunteered to come somewhere. It's always been based on relationship and based on invitations. So I have ministered in over 300 churches in the last 6+ years, and not one of those did we create ourselves or make happen. What I found is that when we create ministry opportunities ourselves, that there's no good fruit. It actually doesn't work, and it doesn't come to fruition, and there's frustrations and there's problems. And this would be even before we end up somewhere, and these problems come right away, actually, and it just sort of fizzles out, like nothing comes of it. I've learned that my best ideas pale in comparison to the Lord's ideas and what God is up to. So we've just really learned to be really careful and follow the Lord's leading. So we begin to just get a sense from the Lord about where and when and with whom. And then we kind of wait on that. Don't rush forward in that. And then usually, again, those people will email or write or say. My last time in India, in fact, I have about a dozen invitations to India. And I've been there before. When I was there before, I was there for 9 weeks. And a number of the pastors I was going to be with were fairly corrupt people. So this last time that I went, I wanted to be really, really careful. And I wanted to really take great care with the Lord's direction and leading. And so I took about a month and a half, 2 months, just to be in prayer before the Lord. In my day-to-day thing, right? Just holding before the Lord this question, well, God, where do I go when I go to India? Now, we have the one family there that's a given. That's the Lord's, oh my goodness, solid partnership, and such an amazing thing and an amazing blessing to be with them. But there's always these other invitations, right? And do I go to them or do I not? This time, maybe another time, maybe never. So last summer I knew I was going to India, and so I began to pray and to wait. And there was, sorry, this coffee must be making me, sorry, let's have another sip. So there was a gentleman that was coming to my spirit, a pastor in India. We had chatted quite a bit on Facebook. I communicated by email. And he stood out to me. Excuse me. I couldn't for the life of me remember his name. And even though we would have chatted on Facebook, I couldn't find him, right? Like, I would have had to scroll and scroll and scroll through so many messages that I get. And so I had no way of remembering who this fellow was, and I couldn't remember his name. But he was really on my spirit and in my heart, and thinking that this was somewhere the Lord would have me go. So of course I'm just waiting, and I'm thinking, this is somebody I'm to go with. And then he messaged me within a week. I think it was more like 4 days. And so then I of course had his name, and I could talk to him, and I could say, hey, the Lord has been telling me that I'm to possibly come and be with you. Like, would this be something that you would be interested in? And of course he was interested in it. That's why he had messaged me, like, Cyndy, when are you coming? And I was able to say, well, I'm actually coming fairly soon, and the Lord has highlighted you to me. And then that happened with another gentleman as well, the same sort of thing. I knew the other gentleman's name. I had remembered his name, but again, I was just waiting on the Lord for confirmation, because I didn't want to go and be with anyone who was, again, not really, really clearly a connection of the Lord. And then this fellow messaged me as well within about 3 days. And then I was able to say, okay, the Lord has been highlighting you to me, and we would love to come and be with you for a part of a day. So this is the way things begin to fall into place for a country and for a ministry time, and for where to be in each country or each region. And then we'll begin to set plans into place, put dates and times, communicate. I always communicate to people that CCIM doesn't bring any money. This is one of the core things that the Lord has taught us. We bring leadership development, inner healing, and church and personal renewal, but we're not bringing money for projects, for church roofs, for orphanages, for widows, for school buildings, for pastors' kids to go to school. None of that is what we're called to do. And so we don't bring that. And so we don't even bring any money for the conferences that I speak at. This is really, really different. Most people, when they come from the West, they are paying the whole bill of the conference. And often pastors will turn over a bill and say, well, here's the bill for while you've been with us. So the Lord showed me fairly early on this was not the way to be. For one, it keeps people weak. It does not create mutuality. It does not create a give and take. It does not create accurate or true fellowship within the body of Christ one to another. And it doesn't bridge across socioeconomic divides or a lot of these things that we set in place as dividers of people. So CCIM, we come into the capacity of the people that we're going to, meaning we do with them what they are able to do as if we were not there. And in fact, not only do we not bring money to conferences to pay the bills of these things, but we actually expect to be hosted and fed, given a simple place to sleep. And so when I'm in communicating with someone, especially if it's a new conversation, a new invitation to a country or to a person that I've never been to before, we do have to have this conversation, and usually sometimes have to have it a number of times over to make sure that we're really, really clear. And I'll say to people, well, you need to know I don't bring any money for any projects of any sort. And so if that's what you want, if that's what you're looking for, you don't want to invite me, because I'm not the right one for that. That's not what we're called to do. The Lord never directs in that way. Well, 99% of the time doesn't direct. And so don't be looking for me to come as a way to create something big or to create something that you wouldn't be able to do otherwise, because I just don't think that's the right way for us to come, and the Lord's been teaching us this for a long time. So we have that conversation, and I say to people, I want to stay with you. I just need a simple place to sleep, somewhere to tuck my mosquito net, even if it's a mat on a floor, that's fine. And then simple food, please don't feed me too much, although I'm always fed too much. Please don't feed me too much, and don't go into debt to have us come. And in terms of a conference, we'll come within the capacity that you have. Sometimes people will message me or email me and they'll say, oh, well, I can put on a conference of 500 people. We can have a big, big, big thing happening. And I will say, well, if that's what you normally do, we're glad to enter into that. But if that's not what you normally do, then I'm glad to enter into what you do. You know what I mean? So it might be, and this is what I literally say is, I am glad to come and speak with 5 people. I'm glad to come to a conference of 20 people. Because we're committed at CCIM to being within your capacity and entering into fellowship with you as you are, where you are, in the way that you are in your community and in your church. So that conversation all has to happen. But then as that sort of ticks into place, and people say, of course, we just want what you can bring, then we would love to have you. And here's what we would like. Just come and bring what the Lord has been showing you just come and show it to our conversation, or our congregation, bring it into our midst. So we do kind of have always this kind of running checklist that check, okay, this is somewhere that the Lord is confirming to go. If these things don't get checked, we don't go there. Because I've had a few times where we have gone places and there wasn't enough understanding on how we were coming, and it just ended up, they were frustrated, I was frustrated, and it didn't really create, it didn't create a really pleasant encounter or time. But again, we all sort of went away frustrated and upset with each other. So I'm really clear now to just tell people, well, if you don't want inner healing kind of stuff, if you don't want a deep touch of the Lord, of renewal and restoration and healing and wholeness within you, then don't have me come, because that's basically what we're bringing. So then we begin to look at airline dates and the time frame and how long going to be in a country, or if we're going from one country to the next country, and then how long that trip is going to be. And again, setting into place all of the schedule. And the schedule falling into place, like when the communications with the people just drop into place, literally just fall into place, then that's one of the first solid indications that, okay, God's putting this together. Because again, if it's not really of the Lord, if the connection isn't of the Lord, if the timing isn't of the Lord, it's a lot more work to make that stuff happen. And you have to understand, this is pretty amazing, these connections falling into place. Because I don't go somewhere for 1 or 2 weeks, generally. I'm often, or I can be in a country for 8 weeks or 9 weeks or 12 weeks. And I'm not going to just one person or two people or even 10 people. When I was in Uganda in March, April, May of 2017, we were alongside, now again, somewhere like 35 to 40 leaders, changing location every 2 to 3 days, conference after conference, church after church, leadership conferences, pastors' conferences, and then bringing our own CCIM college training days. So to make a schedule come into place where it works for that many individuals, that many pastors, that many congregations, that many conferences, all in a row, so that the flow from one to the next is seamless, like literally seamless, and it just comes into place, is, I think, a miracle of the Lord, actually. So we walk in miracles every day at CCIM, just even in how these trips play out and how our times in countries and alongside so many people come together. And then we'll begin to look at the money. I might ask for money. I've actually stopped asking for money as much for trips. You know, when you first do ministry trips or missionary trips, you do fundraisers, and, you know, a couple of times, Christmas time, I was making fruitcake. Oh my word, I was like, what the heck am I doing? I'm not called to be a maker of fruitcake, but there I was making fruitcake. Loved it at the time. But, you know, international ministry cannot go forward on fruitcake. So we did that a couple of years. But, you know, when you first start missions work, you know, you're kind of going forward with these ho-dunk sort of fundraising things, right? Oh, let's do this. So let's have that. Let's have this. And we did those at first, but it's not a sustainable way because people get tired of, you know, they're actually not really interested in your trip anymore per se, and expecting ministries to grow up in terms of money. But the money thing that the Lord has taught us is about living in the manna. In fact, one of the last chapters of our College of Capturing Courage International Ministries is a chapter I've written on living in the manna. And this is about just trusting forward with the Lord. So one trip, this would have been a year and a half ago, I was heading to Uganda for 6 weeks and then Pakistan for 3 weeks immediately following. So I was going to be away for 9 weeks. And the Lord had been bringing breakthrough that summer, and personally for myself, the Lord had told me in about May or June of 2016, Cyndy, let me love you more. And so I began to open myself up to that. And then this bit of financial breakthrough was part of what came out of that. So I was preparing for this trip, again, setting into place all of the schedule and the order and who I was going to be with and the invitations and sorting them through and waiting on the Lord. And I do this every single time with virtually no money. Like, there might be $100 in the bank. Like, so when I say no money, I'm not talking about North American no money, meaning, oh, well, we only have, $5,000. I mean, like no money. Because when I come home from a ministry trip, there's no money. I've come home from ministry trips and there's $12 in the bank. Right? Now, it's amazing though, because we've learned to do this comfortably and with trust and in the peace of the Lord. And it's been part of the manna thing. You know, the Israelites, right? Walking through the desert, and God brought the manna by day and the quail by night. And if you remember the manna, they couldn't collect it. They couldn't keep it. They couldn't save it to the next day, or it had maggots in it, right? It went rotten. And this is what we've been learning about funds at CCIM, is that we are to go with it as manna. Now, money isn't always manna, but at CCIM, money is manna. And I don't know if the Lord's ever going to change that. What he's been doing is he's been increasing our ability to walk in the tension of this, because what it does is it creates tension within us, right? This, oh my gosh, I'm making all these promises to all these people and I have no clue how I'm getting to the country. But a year and a half ago, it's the same sort of scenario. And it's the same scenario where I am right now, right? 2 weeks today, I'll be at a church in India. Oh, I have no idea how I'm getting there, sort of how that ticket's going to be bought. The Lord hasn't directed me in that yet, but that's okay. The plans are coming into place for India and for Uganda coming up. So, but that one summer, I was leaving the end, when was I leaving? Middle September, I believe. So the end of August, I was kind of freaked out actually that year, or that trip, more than normal. I was doing a lot of journaling around money and around manna and around God's love and welcoming God's love and allowing his love to soak in. You know, we've had a really low view of God's love. We think of it as affection, which that's a part of it. We think of it as warm, fuzzy feelings. But my goodness, I have been finding that the love of God is a powerful force. God's love is powerful. And I can't even explain it a lot more than that. But so that year I was doing some work around this, and I had a sense about this trip coming up that there was going to be one person who would pay for the ticket and one person who would supply the money on the ground. And I had a figure for the money on the ground in my mind. I had a dollar number for that. And of course the ticket price depends on when one buys it, right? So, but I also knew I could be wrong in that sensing. I might not actually have that completely correct. But I was praying, or as I was praying, that was the sense I was getting. But then my mind, so of course we're always praying for money, right? I need money for the on the ground. I need money for the ticket. So we're praying for money. And then I remembered this story that I've heard about people going on a ministry trip of some sort, going to the airport without a ticket and finding a ticket waiting for them. Or someone in line at the airport speaks up and says, you know, do you have a ticket? I think I'm supposed to buy a ticket for you. Again, these places where the Lord moves, right? And moves people outside of anything that we would be able to make happen or even imagine to do, right? Like, not many of us are going to go to an airport without a ticket, unless the Lord's saying do that. So my thinking began to open up. I began to realize, I don't need to pray for money for a ticket, because I could just pray for a ticket. I just need a ticket. Okay, so God could bring that ticket any way he wants, right? It doesn't have to be the way I would normally think of doing it, meaning, you know, get some money, go online, buy a ticket. I just need a ticket. So, and then I was remembering another story I've heard. Again, I don't know anybody who's done this personally, but I heard this story about these couple gals, you know, young women, going on a missions trip with, you know, they got their backpacks and they're at the airport and they go into the bathroom at the airport and they come out of the bathroom and they're in the airport of the country to which they were needing to get to. And so now this actually really catches my imagination and catches my faith and this adventure walk with the Lord. So then as I was thinking about that story, I was like, well, okay, so I maybe don't even really need a ticket. I just need to get to the country I'm going to. Okay. So what was happening was, you know, I had this narrow thinking, I need money for a ticket, right? Well, wait a minute. No, maybe I just need a ticket, sort of bigger thinking. And then, well, wait a minute. I may not even need a ticket. I just need to get to the country. So what it did within me was it just opened my thinking and my expectations to this awareness that really God could get me there however he wanted. It didn't matter to me. I don't have to buy a ticket. I mean, if I can go into a bathroom and come out in the bathroom at the airport to the country in which I'm getting, well, okay, that's like I don't need anything more than that. Like, that's the point, right? The point isn't money, and the point isn't a ticket. The point is the work in the country and where I'm supposed to be at any time. So this became my plan. I even began posting it on my private page on Facebook. So here's my plan. I have a feeling one person's going to pay for the ticket and one person's going to pay for the money on the ground. But if that doesn't work, or if I'm wrong on that, if that's not it, then I'll go to the airport on the right day and look to see if there's a ticket for me. And if there isn't a ticket for me, I'll go into the bathroom and come back out, and maybe I'll be in the country that I need to get to. And if that doesn't work, I'll hang around, have tea for a few hours, and then I'll go see if there's a ticket for me still at the airport. And if that doesn't, no ticket, well, I'll go back to the bathroom and I'll come back out, and I'll see if I'm in the country I need to get to. So this was my plan, like, literally. And there was such a sense of expectation from the Lord. So what happened that in the couple weeks, so like we're getting closer and closer to the time I'm supposed to be leaving. All these things set into place, schedules made, commitments made. And I'm a big one. When I make commitments, I don't break them unless the Spirit does redirect something, and then I will break it. But generally, oh my goodness, that's just such a terrible, horrible thing to do. And so it's a real risk for me to set in place the time frame and the commitments to people. So I'm doing this, and I'm and then about a week and a half 2 weeks before I was to be in the country, the Lord said to me, well, go find a ticket route, right? Because I had to get a specific route. Multiple city, from where I live to Uganda, be there for 6 weeks, from Uganda to Pakistan, be there for 3 weeks, and then from Pakistan to home. So I was finding this very specific ticket route. And I didn't even know if it was possible. Can you fly from Uganda to Pakistan? I didn't know. So the Lord had said to me, well, find a route that would work. Not buy it, don't buy it, but just go look and see what it is and what the time frames are and what could possibly work. So I did that. Found a route. I knew that to get to Uganda on the day when I needed to be there, I would have to leave on a Monday. So this was about a week and a half before that day of leaving. The next Monday, so 1 week away from that day, a friend comes and gives me $50 US. And she says, Cyndy, the Lord told me to give this to you. And I was, oh, that's right. Because for a visa to Uganda, when you land, you need $50 American at the airport to pay for that visa. And I didn't have that. I didn't even have enough money in the bank to go take out $50 American. Like, that was sort of where the money was at that point in time. And had been for a while. There had been some extra expenses and stuff, and I don't even remember what it was, but I know there was some unexpected stuff that sort of put us into that position, with like virtually nothing. So so she gave me that money, and then a day or two later, some other friends, they gave me $100 US, and I was like, oh. Now I always have a little bit of emergency funds on me, and so what they gave me, it was like, well, that's cool, okay, that takes care of that. So now I've got I can land, and I've got the visa money, and I got some emergency money, and then all that was needed again was the money on the ground and the ticket. So that Thursday then, a fellow I know said to me, Cyndy, I have some money that I'm supposed to give to you. And it was the exact amount as the dollar figure in my head for the on-the-ground money. So he got that to me on Friday. So that's 3 days before I'm supposed to be leaving. So we've got all these things falling into place. I packed my bag weeks before, right? Because the Spirit always compels that. Quite a few weeks before a trip, start packing. And I start to, I buy electrolytes and like whatever the odds and ends are, get another lip chop or, whatever I might need in my ministry bag. I start to compile anywhere from 2 to 4 weeks before a trip. So that had already been done. So then now this money on the ground comes on the Friday. I'm supposed to be flying out Monday, and I still don't have any ticket, and I don't know how it's going to go. I did have one person saying to me, who's close in, I think I'm supposed to pay for the ticket. And I said to this person, I said, no, it can't be about us here. We can't make this happen. It's got to be the Lord's thing. The Lord has to make it happen or it's not happening. And of course, here was the plan. The plan was, well, one person's going to pay for the ticket, one person's going to pay for the money on the ground. And if that doesn't work, I'm going to go to the airport, look for a ticket. If there's no ticket, I'll go to the bathroom, come out of the bathroom, see if I'm in another country. If that doesn't work, I'll hang out there for a while, check again a few hours later, see if there's a ticket. If there's no ticket, I'll go into the bathroom, I'll come out of the bathroom again and see if I'm in the country to which I need to get to. And of course, people thought I was nuts, right? Cyndy's gone bonkers. The Sunday, day before I'm to leave, one of our head office, CCIM head office gals in the Vancouver area phones me, and she says, Cyndy, I want to take you to the airport, and I want to see if there's a ticket with you, and if there's no ticket, I'll hang out with you, or we'll go try the bathroom, see if you go into the bathroom, and if you come back out again, or if you end up in the country you need to go to. If nothing happens with that, then we'll sit and have tea for some hours, and we'll try it again. And in both of our spirits, there was this solid expectation of the Lord's provision and movement for this trip and for myself to get there. There wasn't any doubt. We had no idea how it was going to happen, but we were just excited to find out how it would unfold, and she wanted to be a part of that. So both of us, it was just so lovely. We were both as crazy as each other, right, in our normal way of thinking about things and attending to things. So we set this up. She was gonna, according to the ticket I had found, I hadn't bought, the flight route that I had found, we needed to leave at about 7 in the morning. So we had set that time. She was gonna come and get me for 7 in the morning. We hang out. Half an hour later, or actually just a few minutes, I don't know, 10, 15 minutes after that phone call, I get a phone call from another gal that I know, and she says, Cyndy, I'm the one to buy your plane ticket. And so, long story short, within 45 minutes or something, I was phoning our head office gal back and saying, well, you don't have to come at 7 in the morning. My plane doesn't leave until the evening, and a plane ticket has been bought. So that ticket was a day before. So now here I am. I'm heading off in a week and a half. I don't know how I'm paying for the ticket. I don't know when I'm going to buy the ticket. Again, I wait on the Spirit. It's compelling for this. I don't do things just in my own thinking anymore. I've really learned to rest and to trust and to wait. And if nothing happens, and if we have to pull back the whole thing, we'll do that. Because my ego is not any longer connected in to this work, actually. So, at one time I would have wanted to save face, right? Not set things into place unless I, again, had all my ducks in a row. But the Lord's been teaching a really different way on that. So, needless to say, the ticket's always the last thing to be bought. So right now, I'm a week and a half out, and the pieces are not in place. The schedule's in place. The pieces of me actually logistically getting there are not in place. But you know what? Like I learned in my early trips, I don't need a ticket today. I'm not going anywhere today. I don't even need a ticket in 3 days. I'm not going anywhere in 3 days. And so on, right? That we actually just move forward by the direction and the Spirit of the Lord, and just glad for that. Anyways, so this has been how we work at CCIM, and it's of course on my mind as I watch the things coming together for this next ministry trip, the schedules coming into place, people going yes, 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 and confirmation of the Spirit in different ways. So we'll see, and we'll see how this comes together. I have no idea, but I don't need to know. It's not really mine to know. It's only mine to go. Now I might wake up tomorrow morning and there might be a compelling of the Spirit. Go buy a ticket. then I will do that. But I'm with family right now, resting and refreshing and restoring. And so even though there are things I'm still attending to while I'm here with some of my kids and grandkids, I know the Lord isn't. The next steps for the trip will come after, once I'm home in a few days' time. So blessings. May this have encouraged you in some way. It's a bit of a crazy tale. Anyways.